Our next guest is a cyber attorney, and unfortunately, she's been very busy lately. Please welcome Justine Phillips to the program. Justine, how you doing?
Doing well. Thank you very much for shining the light on important issues like cybersecurity.
Yes. Now, this is something that I think there are a lot of people who are super, I don't know, there's like a phobia for like cyber stuff. They're not on Facebook or they're just lurking online. They don't want anything out there. Are these people crazy, or is this how we all need to be now?
Well, it's a fair question. I think demographics really charge how people feel about their privacy. For those of us that have been victims of identity theft or have had their credit card breached or have received a credit card in the mail week after week because their account's been compromised, we need to learn from the past transgressions, and we need to become smarter and more cyber safe. Just like your hygiene, you need to keep every day and work every day at making your world more cyber safe. And hopefully we can share some of those thoughts today with you.
I was going to say that's exactly what we're looking to do today, as we are going to talk about the 7 ways to reduce the risk that a cyber crook will be able to steal your data or your identity. So let's kick it off. Where would you like to start?
So most important is folks need to acknowledge that 15 million Americans will be victims of identity theft this year alone. The cost to America is $50 billion. So it takes a village to protect a village. Companies can't do this alone. The government isn't going to save us. We have to start taking matters into our own hands. And the way we do that is, number one, is updating those little updates you get on your computer that says update your Microsoft Windows or your apps, update your apps. All of those usually are to fix bugs or malware that has been, malicious code that has been embedded in the software. So it's really important that you actually update your software and your apps.
So I need to update all those apps?
Well, it really helps. Apps are an interesting one, right? Because a lot of folks download apps for the convenience and the technology, but the apps actually, some of them unnecessarily collect data. There's a really neat app that you can download called the Priva, and what it does is it tracks what the apps on your phone are doing and who is collecting your geolocation, where you're actually located, your phone number, your contacts, and the companies aren't supposed to be collecting this information without disclosing it to the person using it. But what you find is a lot of them actually are collecting data.
So I need an app to keep my apps in check?
Well, see, you need ID just to get ID, right?
Right. What's that app called again?
Apriva.
Apriva.
And that's actually from an inventor right here in San Diego. And one thing a lot of folks don't realize is San Diego is a mecca for cybersecurity. We've got Identity Theft Resource Center. It's a free resource center for folks when they have their identity stolen. We have Data Privacy Rights Clearinghouse, and it tracks all the data breaches and gives good information. And then the clusters that are happening in San Diego are really carving ourselves out to be the Silicon Valley of cybersecurity. A lot of activity with CyberHive, securing our e-city. So a lot of activity in San Diego that we should be proud of.
We should be proud of it, but just being in close proximity to it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to help us, right?
True.
What else?
So another opportunity for folks is not to share their devices with their children. Right? Because gaming software are some of the worst offenders of malware. Malware can come in the form of Trojan horses, which is embedded into the coding, and you're clicking on it and it's deploying. And kids are great at that. You download a gaming software and you want to buy this. Yes, we do. We want to buy it for 99 cents, and they click on it. So not sharing devices with kids is a great first start.
So I need to buy my child their own iPad? Is that what you're saying?
Or let them have your older iPad, right? Because you're going to upgrade in a few years. Let them have something. Create an air gap. And what I mean by that is we all have computers that we're doing our TurboTax on and have our private, what's called personally identifiable information, our social security numbers, our home address, our kids' names, and our kids' social security numbers. That should be not tampered with. That shouldn't have any gaming software. It shouldn't have anything else on it except for that which you need to do your business and conduct your home finances.
Okay.
So create an air gap. Don't let the kids play on that.
Okay, so have a buffer. In other words, have a computer that's designed just for that stuff. Keep it all right there, and just put your games and whatnot on the iPad.
Or on a separate laptop or desktop computer.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, that makes sense. What about passwords? I have a password that's pretty darn difficult. It's like my password.
What is it? Not going to tell me.
No.
Not gonna, good. See,
But-
you got a good first
Do
start.
I get a star for that?
A little bit.
So, but it seems like now it's become really difficult because you got to have a password for everything. Passwords are all, they all want different requirements. Got to have capitals, got to have punctuation, got to have numbers, but then some of them don't have that. What is your advice about passwords?
All right. So the number one password today is still password.
Seriously?
It's still password, and has been for decades. So you need to have some sort of unique identifier. So I recommend lowercase, uppercase, and maybe not a phrase, but maybe the first initial of a phrase, something that might inspire you that you want to enter into every day. So you can have symbols and make it fairly unique. Also, don't use the same password for every single account. You want to have different passwords for different accounts. Now you can have certain accounts that you may not think are aggregating data or are that important, and so their lower threshold of security is needed. Maybe you have one type of password for that, but maybe your banking information, your online banking, you have the strongest type of security embedded in your password. So that is one thing you can do with the passwords. Now, the different types of passwords that are required usually depends on the type of institution you're dealing with. So financial institutions usually require 3 different types of unique identifiers within the password.
My goodness. So you're telling me I need to have a different password for every single login?
Well, and here's the...
So where do I keep those passwords? Because there's no way I can memorize all that, is there?
Well, and that's why the phrase is great. The password lockers have been compromised. So you can have a password locker app on your phone where you're entering in passwords. But those are great targets, right, for hackers, because then they get that. It's like getting the keys to the palace.
No kidding.
Then you get into that and you can get into all the accounts. What we found is that those organizations that are seemingly benign, you might attend a conference, you might go somewhere, and you might enter in your username and password. If you're using that same password for your banking institution, and now you've used it with an organization that's easily breached, when that information is breached, the bad guys will then take your information and try to access more profitable accounts like your banking information.
More profitable accounts is what they're looking for. I've heard some things about free Wi-Fi. I'm afraid to ask. Should we be getting on the free Wi-Fi at Starbucks?
No, well, it depends, right? The reality is we're going to be accessing free Wi-Fi. It's just, let's do it smart. The trouble is, when you're on a public Wi-Fi, the information that the screens that you go to are unencrypted. So anybody around can control and see what you're looking at. So if you go to your banks, they can lock it down so it's encrypted so they can't see it. Now, what if the Wi-Fi is owned by a bad guy? And we're finding this a lot, particularly as we're a border city. Crime is shifting away from traditional crime into cybercrime because it's more profitable and there's less risk involved.
Wow, that's incredible. Fantastic stuff. I know you've got more on here, so I guess people are just going to have to check you out, call you, email you to get the rest of the list.
Well, the last one...
We have run out of time.
Oh,
give it to us quickly.
Yeah, the one more that I think is really important is where you use your debit cards, because there's the device is called skimmers, and skimmers are popped into gas station pumps and ATMs, and when you put your card in, there's a wireless camera that's detecting. So put your hand over the keyboard when you're doing it, and then the information for the bad guys are sitting in a truck and they're collecting it. So that's a big, big scam that is costing millions and billions of dollars in the United States and really popular in San Diego. So gas stations, ATMs, I would say the only place to ever use a debit card that's linked to your checking account is inside your bank. Never use it anywhere else. Use a credit card, but don't use a debit card that's linked to your
today. Do you know how much work I have to do now to become more cyber safe?
Get your cyber hygiene on.
Great stuff. Justine Phillips, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your time.